Welcome to the Sparky Coach podcast. This platform was built by Sparkies for Sparkies. We simply exist to make business owners more profitable, or businesses more profitable and more predictable. So we want to work with people that work hard because we love working hard too, that work smart because you got to be on top of the business, people that are kind because no one likes a dickhead. Am I right? People who want results because that's what we're here for, right? And people who want to be part of a like-minded community. So if you're interested in hearing more about the platform, please reach out and enjoy the podcast. Sparky Coach Pod, Crowy here with the big Hib dog, aka Brad Hibberd, Hib Electrical, based out of Tas over the Bass Strait. How are you?
Good, Crowy. Good to be with you, mate.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for having me this morning.
We haven't potted before yet. You did one with Cam a month or two back. How did you find that? Was that one of your first pod experiences?
Yeah, that was my first pod experience. It was good fun. Good to be sitting in one with you now, and we'll see how it goes. But yeah, just a Sparky rambling on. It's good.
Yeah, don't worry about rambling. People love the ramble. So
Yeah.
so anyway, I always start with like, what's life look like for you now? When did you start operating the business?
5.5 years ago, I started the business. So Christmas will be 5.5 years.
Is that peak COVID hit?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So in the last pod, the mic was a little bit off, but I was a commercial supervisor. They got a bit quiet in COVID, got a little bit shit, took my work ute. I was running like projects and stuff for them. The project finish up, they put a few boys on stand down. When they took the work ute and were being a little bit dodgy, not dodgy, but forcing people to use leave and stuff, and which is sort of fair enough. I just sort of said, look, I'm going to go start my own thing and give that a crack and don't really want to come back. They give me a little redundancy, which helped me start setting up the business. Yeah.
Yeah. How old are you now?
I'm 30.
30. So you were what, 25 when you
I was
started?
25 when I started the business. Yeah.
Yeah, huge. That's amazing. You look back and babies. Hey, I think I was 22, 23 or something like that. And
yeah, that's hectic.
it's funny because if someone contacted me now as a 22-year-old, I would probably go like, nah, man, just wait. But then I was like, it was probably with my personality type just gonna be all right. Like I was gonna wrangle it. And it's interesting. I think I steer somewhere else, but my reflection from if I had my encouragement again, I think Sparky Coach is my second time starting a business. Not, I think it is, but working much smarter than harder. I think I worked very hard at the start when you start your own business, and then as you get through the ranks, you work a bit smarter. But wrangling it back, what does it look like for you now? So give us a rundown of your sort of team size, office team, bits and pieces, and then yeah.
Yeah. So if you include myself, there's 15 of us in the team now. And that ranges from sort of 1.5 office staff. So one does 3 days a week, one does full time. We have an operations manager, and then we have a casual Sparky as well that sort of does 2-3 days a week and surfs and chills. So he just does what he wants, which is a nice cruisy life for him. And he's just had a baby, and he lives pretty rural. So it's a nice sort of balance for him because he travels a bit for work and does big days. So those 2 days might be 20-hour days sort of thing. And then we do have a subby that bounces in a couple of days a week as well that helps us on the air side of things. So he probably picks up, he could do 4 or 5 days a week, and then on the quieter weeks he normally does 1 to 2 days. So between them they probably account for nearly a full-time fella there. So yeah, probably about 15 in total now. But
yeah, cool. And how did it start for you? How did you go about finding work at the start? Was just that something you did you have work lined up, or,
yeah, so I played a lot of footy in a rural footy club, or everywhere is pretty rural once you get half hour out of Hobart. So Hobart's a pretty small capital city, so it's only sort of half hour, 20 minutes out of Hobart, but you're starting to get into like rural connections and that. And then through the footy club, when I was on COVID stand down, the heaps of people just doing renos and wanting stuff done. So then I was just doing cashies, and then I was like, right, I could probably actually do. I'm working like 3-4 days a week. Like I'm getting exhausted here. I was meant to be like just chilling, you know. So I was like, I could probably turn this into a business and do it full time. And then I did. My first week out, I booked out straight away in my little diary, no job management software, and I'm like killing it. And then first day, I just did my mum and dad's like switchboard upgrade, and I was just like, because I needed a bit more experience around like the old domestic space, like the older stuff. So, which was mum and dad's house. So I was like, bang, first job, I'm going to do that. And then Tech Safe come and inspected it, and I come out with the inspector. And I was like, oh, I just started my own business, so give it to me, like what you don't like, what you want to see. And he's like, I've never had a contractor really do this, so it's good that you want to take on board and be as professional as possible. And that's sort of day one where it started, and picked up my work a lot through there. And the aim was to only ever get enough work to facilitate myself full time, and here we are. I'd never really had a business goal, and I still haven't, to be fair. I just go where the business needs me to. So
I think you've kind of got to a little bit though. Hey, I see people set 5-year goals, and I think we've all got the same 5-year goal. I say this so much, but this 5-year goal for everyone is beer or kombucha on acreage with kids on a trampoline, and like it's pretty typical, like a lifestyle sort of situation. And and I think the business pivots so much. It's very hard to have like a full blown anchor point. You might have your best intention to keep your business at 3 to 5 staff. You could just meet the right contracts and right clients, the right people, and you'd be the unlikely hero to get to 15 or 20. And if it's working, you just keep pushing forward, right? Like what? So you've been you've been running our sub mill club. It's been going for like 3 weeks, I think. So and on $1 million under in revenue in our program, sort of gets to sit with you for an hour a week. And I just think anytime anyone's sitting with you for an hour a week is a good time. But what kind of advice you have in that sub-million revenue? So you're probably operating either by yourself or with 2 tradies and an apprentice and something like that. Like looking back, what advice would you give to yourself at that time? Like what would you do the same? What would you do differently?
Oh, that's a good one. What I've been tricky with actually coaching the group that I've got at the moment as well is I'm very growth orientated. I've realised that now, and I've got a high risk tolerance. So one thing that I'm going to go is like I'm going to coach them to growth. Like I'm going to go, this is what I would do because that's what I did. But I also had to say to a few of them so a few of them don't really want to hire, but so how we're going to go about their business issues is going to be a little bit different to if they're at full capacity. They're like, I don't want to hire. I'm happy where my business is at. You know what I mean? So like they need to have an idea of where they want to go. If they don't want to have more staff, then there's no point hiring because it's going to make them unhappy. So I think what I did in that time though that I would like to do, but I sacrificed so much of my happiness and I worked a lot, so it was just like, right, that's out the window. Yeah, I had that plan to do after work. That's gone. Like, that fishing trip's gone. Like, I'm not going to do that now. That fishing on the weekend, that's gone. I'm going to do this now. I'm catching up on book work. I definitely got that wrong. But something that does stay with me, which I agree with to a degree, like if you put the hours in, you're going to advance quicker and get out of it quicker. You know what I mean? So it's like, if someone's doing 40 hours a week and someone's doing 80 hours a week and they're that driven and they're going to do 80 hours a week for 12 months, it is a bad place to be in, but they're going to advance a lot quicker if they're working smart too, you know what I mean? And they're coached in the right direction because they're implementing everything in their business. If they're implementing everything in their business at the same time, say they're on the tools 40 hours a week, but they're on the back end 40 hours a week implementing everything that they're taught, they're going to advance really quickly because they're working so hard. And I think I did it wrong in the sense that it's got me to where I am now, but sometimes I look back and I go, I wish I just chilled a little bit more or, took a little bit more time for myself. Don't get me wrong. There was like times where I've traveled a lot the last few years. So once business got to the 3-year mark, it became a lot easier, but that's just time in the game, right? But that first year to 3 years was definitely like a suffering time in business, I would say. Like it would be hard to go back to that now for sure. So I do feel people's pain when they're in that period.
It's a painful period. What stage have you found the hardest?
That I think that stage.
Yeah,
Which
I found the same. I found either the very, very start, and because it's confusing because you're working so hard, but you're probably invoicing at midnight or Saturday or Sunday or every third full moon, or the stage when you're on tools for like what feels like 40 hours a week, but probably just firefighting, but then in that office 40 hours a week and probably just firefighting,
yeah,
like both things. And by firefighting the office, I mean invoice preparation and wholesaler reconciling statements and just mundane administration stuff. So my reflection is always like, well, how could I have worked smarter? Because there's 80 hours and then there's 80 hours, or 60 and 60, and not all are comparable. And yes, you need your billables, but it's so interesting to be like, if you're just firefighting through the admin stuff, like that's why we started Sparky Admin essentially, right? Like because we saw people just firefighting through the mundane administration tasks that weren't progressing the business forward. They weren't an on business task; it was an in business task, and they were just they were just maintaining. They weren't growing. So a great example of like an on business rather than in business is setting up ground plan into a price book for your quoting and all the scripts. So it's like that's something that's done once that you have for forever, which is so interesting because you don't want to get caught. And that's my advice to myself. And so you don't want to get caught in the working hard stage. The working hard's great, but as long as you're working hard in the right stuff, you look at the admin release and go, well, I could pay a virtual assistant or Sparky Admin. Shout out to Sparky Admin. I'm allowed to promote my own product on my own
yeah.
podcast. or you go in-house admin earlier, because your opportunity cost, you can earn more in the office. It's not about earning more, but it kind of is. You can earn more your time's better spent in the office or like actually developing something on the business. So what's your take on?
Yeah, 100%. So even doubling back to that, I've just sort of reflected a little bit on that. So I think my hardest time in business was when I had about 3 people. It was fine. Like my Sam, my ops come on. It was me. Like I was the phone sort of operations manager at the time, on the tools and a little bit off, maybe apprentice. Once you got over that 3 to 4 people, it was starting to become hard to manage. It's like I really think that like happy period in business is like 3 people or under, or get north of that sort of $1 million revenue. When you're sitting in around that million, is like it is a brutal time in business because you're trying to do everything, wear too many hats, and you're going to need to grow as well. And you're getting a lot of clients because you're sort of like, oh, these guys look good and stuff. You might have been around a little while. So, yeah, definitely. It was just like, for me, I was like, once I hit that 4th person, I was like, I need to get out of this as quick as possible. Like I need to go north or back. You know what I mean? Like I need to go back to 4 guys, or I need to go north to 10. Really, like, and get there as quick as possible. So I was like, right, I took my ops off early, like off the tools, sacrificed my wage and that out of the profit. Was like, right, got to train staff, upskill people to build the foundations to where we're going. And my ops a few times called me up and he's like, stuff this, let's go back to just these 3 guys and we'll kill it. And I was like, but there's no end game in that. How do we have a holiday, man? Like we're always going to be working, so we want it to be all run without us so everyone can have a holiday and stuff like that. So I was like, let's push, because if we go back now, we'll never go again. So let's just push now, we'll get it done. And that's what we're both in that mentality. So I'm very risk orientated in the sense that I will sacrifice money to train and upskill staff to go to the next level for sure.
I want to get into that risk on factory for got my notes here, like rent factory, purchase factory, and then, invest in the ops manager and that back end stuff. I want to get that in a sec, but it's so interesting. Just that, I don't know, just flashing back to what you said in that hyper busy time. Do you go north or do you go south? I just think that's incredibly smart, because you have to do one or the other. The danger is like, this is where people get a ceiling of like, I want to get 3 tradies and two apprentices and train everyone up in-house and have like a family-run company. And that's like cool, but it's sometimes not possible. Like if you start out and you work for three builders or three commercial clients, I'm saying builders, but anyone gives you repeat work, could be an aircon company, could be a real estate, could be whatever. Like if you start out and do a really good job for up and coming real estates, up and coming builders, up and coming sort of commercial sites, whatever, and they grow, you've got to sort of grow with them. So if you've got 10 to 20 clients and they're growing, you sort of can grow organically through that. So you actually, if you stay small, you can't sustain the growth of your clients or the new clients that come on board. Like it's actually impossible. That's the inherent danger of providing a good service for a fair price, because you're going to grow the business. People are, I want to work with Hib. I want to work here. Like, yeah, I've used you guys before. I love you. And we've got this project coming up. And then you might have the 5 builders or 5 clients get the jobs at the same time, and they all want to use you. So sometimes growth is just the inevitable outcome of performing your job well. And it's like, so it's like, how do you put a ceiling, so your best efforts to stay at 3 or 4, which would be actually really, really difficult, are sometimes thwarted by, what's happening around you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree with that. And I think the longer in the game, the more that natural growth will occur, because we're only 5.5 years now, and this year we've got so much of that. You guys, we've come over naturally because of this. We used to use these guys, but my friend uses you and he reckons you're the best. So we've come over now, and it's just like, these aren't advertised clients. These are clients that are coming generically through years of doing a good job for people, for sure.
Yeah, don't underestimate time in game. If you're starting out, don't underestimate time in game, and don't underestimate doing a good job, doing the right thing. If you do the right thing for 10 years, you'll be sweet. And if you grew 10 to 25% every single year for 10 years, like you do the compound interest on that, or compound revenue on that, or compound profit on that, you're in a pretty good wicket. So yeah, back to the sort of the risk tolerance, because your ops manager, or not just you, but anyone's ops manager, gets you out of that sort of mil to 1.5 vortex, you would say, or even a 1 to 2 million vortex. So shout out to Tommy from Rylec, who runs our, what do we call it?
North of
Mill Club. I don't know what we call it. It's a South Mill and a North. So he runs our North Mill Club. Originally, this is actually interesting to talk about out loud. Originally, in a perfect world, you would have like a 1 to 3 million club revenue, I'm talking, and then a 3 million plus, because I feel like the 3 million plus issues are, there's like talk about lifestyle goals at that point. Do I do 4 days a week? Do I spend more time with the kids? I'm going to the hat parade. I'm going fishing and diving more. And you're around that sort of lifestyle and financial goals. You've probably got some money to invest at that point, as long as your profit's looking good. But like, I just kind of called it, and I checked with a lot of people, just called it a North of Mill Club, because I'm like, these people in the vortex, Dr. Evil Laser, right? People in the vortex need to be exposed to those people doing good things above them, because that's the way out. Like, you don't, at that 1 to 3 mil, you don't need to be around other people doing 1 to 3 mil, because it's just like you get lost in just talking. There's no end to, oh my gosh, with this and that and that. And that's what I see the danger of people at that stage. You'll find you want to talk to, this is actually interesting to talk about. You want to talk to everyone more. So you call everyone more and you just debrief about like fires to put out, or this, or do you hear about admin issue, or this. And it's sort of like, I'm not saying it's a gossipy world, but you can get trapped in noise and not focused on what you need to do. So you need to be exposed to the North of 3 mil people that can answer your call at any time, that are making good money, that do have their sort of financials in order. It's actually really interesting. But any thoughts on that before we dive into the operation?
Yeah, I think you end up being a therapist for each other. You know what I mean, to a degree. Like,
and there is a need for that, but there's also like there's no end to that.
Yeah, there is no, because I definitely been there. I've done that for years, probably as well, like, or at least a good 12 months. And the one thing my ops is still sort of, Sam struggles to get his head around a little bit now. And I don't mean to be rude to him sometimes, but then I'm like, man, it's part of it. You know what I mean? Like I pull my boots on every morning now and know my day could change drastically or something could happen drastically, and it's like just part of it. Just do it. Like if you have that approach, you're like, righto, I'll deal with it. It's sweet. It's a lot better, but there's a lot going on. But if you can sort of have that approach to every issue, then you feel like you don't need to call someone and gossip. You know what I mean? You're like, okay, I'm just going to deal with it and get it sorted. This is my job now. This is what I signed up for. And I think when I started employing staff, I didn't understand that. Like, I was like, they just come and do a really good job and be electricians. It's like, no, well, if they've got personal problems at home, they might bring some of that to work with them. Not everyone's at the best. So you signed up for this as well. You know what I mean? Like I've had to deal with some really good staff having some bad situations in their life and tough times. And it's like, hey, you're not at your best and I'm with you to support you through this. But you know what I mean? And then there might be issues that go on between them and clients because they're not at their best. But I've signed up to this, I employed them, and I'm choosing to still employ them just because they're not at their best. So I have to deal with this now. Like, and I think that's the best approach you can take. That I choose to be in this situation. So rather than complain, let's just sort it out. So,
and that might even come into your high risk tolerance and your big picture, because the high risk tolerance, you usually I'll take that gamble. I had to chat with someone yesterday. There's no names across this. People know how we roll here, but essentially in a fair bit of ATO debt and just lifestyle debt and just business debt from maybe some bad decisions. And this is interesting to talk about. It's taken 18 months to turn his numbers around, like 15 months to turn your numbers around. And what happens is with numbers, if you misquote a job 24 months ago and get it 12 months ago, and then you exhaust your progress claim, so you're still throwing labor materials at like a job where you've got no progress left. So, you're throwing money at it, but there's no money coming from it. It can land you in a world where you're doing awesome, but you're getting robbed from a previous mistake. So be careful with your price and everything. But I say that to say this. I was chatting to him yesterday, and he'll basically push a 500 grand year in the next, like this financial year, he'll be close to like 400 or 500 grand, right? So it's 40 grand business profit, or 30 to 40 grand business profit plus his wage. It's going to be around that 400 to 500 grand. And I was just sort of said to him, it's interesting, right? Like, because he's in some short-term pain and debt for the short term, right? But long term, the forecast is profit, sunny skies, looking good. And I was sort of saying to him, it's funny, like if I had have sat with you as Gandalf, right? Trade god Gandalf 10 years ago and said, hey, you'll be 32, you have one kid, you'll be in some debt, but I'm gonna guarantee you 500, north of 500 grand for the next 20 years. Would you take that? And he's like, yeah. Like, you know what I mean?
yeah.
And so it's funny when you have that short term, and even in the short term pain, if you get lost in what's happening, and you need to have your head in what's happening. Of course you do, but you also need that visionary. And I love that you're coaching our sub mill club, because you've got that risk taking, high tolerance. And a high tolerance comes with a low stress. So generally people might perceive, oh, that guy's chill, when in reality you're like, you got a quiet drive, which is great. And I feel like
that is me to a T.
Yeah. Well, people say that with me, or how can you be so relaxed about this stuff? And I'm like, am I presenting relaxed? Because I'm not. Yeah, but I'm this big picture sort of. But I love that you've got that vision and that high tolerance, but you've got your head in the sand, which is the numbers. So sorry, your head in the sand. You've got your head in reality, which is the numbers. The numbers are the day-to-day stuff that you sort of you need to know. How's getting to know the numbers back to front changed your business?
Good. And this is all credibility to you, to be fair. So like when I remember sitting on a Zoom with you, would have been a year and a half ago. So I wasn't like, haven't been with your platform for 5 years, obviously, met you on a different platform. And then, a year and a half ago, I sat with you on Zoom and I was like, I think we just turned over 2.1 mil for the year or something. And I was like, man, the profits, I'm doing everything I've sort of been taught. and the profit's not really sitting here. I dropped out of another few coaching groups because I was like, they're not coaching me the right thing, like, and I was sort of tracking everything, and there's a few staff members where I was like holding on to them, and I was like, nah, right. I had a chat with you. I was sitting in Lao actually, and I was like, when I get back in a month, we're into it. We'll get into your spreadsheet, and we did, and then that highlighted these couple tradies straight away that I already knew in my gut needed to go, and I was like, no, they need to go, and I need to replace them and get some good fellas in here. And that spreadsheet changed the business drastically. I would not be here without just tracking every little cent. And you highlighted it for me. Pick up the $20, $10 notes, $10, $20 notes, $50 notes. Like, that's where it is. It's not, hey, it's not that job that lost 10 grand. It's your boys losing $10 here, $20 here. Like, rein it in,
Yeah, it's so. I remember sitting. You were. I remember you were overseas and you were like back, and it's funny because you would have seen the multiple iterations of our spreadsheet, and I think the release is tomorrow, so it'd be before this podcast comes out. But the new one is just psycho. Like, I don't know. I said in the podcast the other day, Office Essentials. I'm like, I wouldn't move forward in electrical business without that spreadsheet. Like,
Yeah.
full stop. Or something very, 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 very similar. So yeah, man, I love that focus on numbers. And the coolest thing was like, and we're not discounting other coaching programs here. I feel like you would have learned a lot in those other programs as well.
Yeah,
Like,
I definitely did.
yeah.
Like, the business would still be successful without what I know and have been coached from you, but not to the degree that it is. Nowhere near. Like, it would probably be 5 to 8 guys still, but doing okay. Probably doing okay, but the profit margin might have been like a little bit average, but would have been doing okay maybe because with how I was running it. But being with you, it just took me to that next. Tracking those numbers, it just took me to the next level.
It's so interesting because you look at it holistically, and I think most people of a business of 8 to 10 can openly talk about, yeah, I've employed someone or kept someone that I shouldn't have, whether that's office or field staff, or you've kept an apprentice. And it's like, with a revenue focus growth goal, the danger is you're always focused external, like new clients, new staff members, employee, because my revenue is going up. But then with revenue going up, and if it goes up too quickly, especially like where you are, staff aren't around every corner. And I say that holistically, Australia-wide too. So you end up doing work for people that you shouldn't really be doing work for. Maybe you've priced it too low, whatever, with staff members that you shouldn't really be using. And you can end up in a mode of losing excellent clients by underperforming with underperforming staff members or processes, or you sort of get like lost in this like growth. I sat with someone the other day, and he'd come from like a really growth-based coaching program, and he'd gone from 900 to 1.5 in like 12 to 18 months. His wife was like, "What are you doing? This isn't working." Huge ATO debt, huge, like whether it's BAS and POAG, unsure of numbers, and he was doing better at the 2 or 3 staff, which is pretty typical with growth. Like, if you grow too quickly with the wrong systems, wrong client, and forget systems even, just like wrong clients and wrong staff members, you can actually land yourself somewhere where you never sort of should have been. And sometimes slow and steady like does win the race. There's nothing wrong with 10 to 20% every single year for 10 years. That's like a way better result, actually. Like, you can't, in any other sport, I can't just turn up and run a marathon tomorrow. It's just not achievable. Like, my body would actually, well, maybe not your body here, but my body would crumble under the pressure. But yeah, and it's interesting because I think some of the stuff you can learn across somewhere else is amazing, like absolutely amazing. But I think it's a lot of stuff that once you learn, and we chatted about this yesterday. And then, but once you sort of get to know, there's no end to numbers. So what are some of the interesting things that you've seen the numbers bring up? Obviously, like underperforming staff member, one of them, but like, what other little things have you noticed or tweaked or chopped or changed from like looking at the numbers? Because you're pretty you're similar to me that where you really care about the detail on the spreadsheet, which I think is
Yeah,
cool. But like,
yeah.
what's some cool stuff you've picked up or learned? Like, yeah,
We won more builders projects out of it. You know what I mean? So if I just look, I'm quite happy to. I've got some really good project guys now, so I'm quite happy to um, shoot what the average guys would do. You know, at a lower margin to win a new builder in, and then put the A team on it, and they go hit you 20 to 30% anyway, probably on a project. You know what I mean? So that just sort of made us reevaluate some of our pricing and actually bring it down a little bit, which is, I know it's not always the right thing to do, but like even cross-referencing our price book, the girls, we help the girls do it in the office if they're price booking like a quote, a service and maintenance quote over the phone. And like when you get a few items in there, it's can be quite expensive, you know, like you're probably ripping people off. So it's built for one, but it's not like if you've got 10 items in there, it's going to definitely be ripping the client off, and you don't want to be seen as rip off. But I know a lot of companies, and not in this coaching group, but it's just like, yeah, price book, send it and get paid for 2 days for tradie for one. And I'm like, I'm not really about that. You know what I mean? It's not morally correct. I mean, it's good to do, but we're Tassie, we're a rural area, like bad blood spills. Everyone knows everyone. Like you can't be doing that. So we actually just cross-reference everything, check it, make sure it's a fair margin. And if they still come back and say it's too expensive, I'm like, you're not the client for me. I can't work with you. Like, you know, I know that's a fair price. That's fair for my business. It's fair for my staff. It's fair for everyone. So that
yeah,
really
I
highlighted that.
I love that. I love because the incremental effect of a price book of let's say 150, let's say a ceiling fan, right? Like if you quote 150 a fan, you're probably losing money across 3 to 4, but you're probably making money on 7 to 8. If you're quoting 300 a fan, that's probably correct for the first one. But if you quote seven, you're going to be sort of printing money. And I've got nothing against printing money. Like that's actually it's funny to talk about because in our the slogan of Sparky Coach is make money, build wealth, be kind. So there's nothing against making money, but I think like I'm so stoked I grew up where I did in a town where I did and went to school where I did and I had the apprenticeship I did because it just like and went to church where I did because it's just such a small town vibe. Like if you got that, if you're running a small town company and keep doing the right thing, like the money will come. It might not come from that one job, but it might come over the staff members across a couple of years. Like it doesn't have to come tomorrow. I think is super interesting. But yeah, I love the fact that you're sort of cross-referencing that. And I want to highlight too, this is kind of bring over to our next topic of and like I feel that our Beastimator, which is our like overhead calculator, margin calculator, profit, it's a forecaster basically. Like I feel like, and this is why I'm against. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm personally against anyone using someone else's spreadsheet that they don't know how to drive because I feel like if you don't know how to drive it, you can land yourself in some hot water. Classic example, if you're by yourself, your overhead's probably going to be $73 an hour. Your break even's probably 140. If you pass that on with a margin, you're not going to get any work. But the second you put an apprentice on or a tradie on, you sort of balance that out. So, and then you're like right on top of the numbers. I know you sort of play around with that spreadsheet for fun, kind of like I do in a way. But your one is interesting because your one was pushing higher overhead, and then you came to the realization like if I on cost that, I'm going to lose a lot of work, but I'm actually investing a lot in the business. So the whatever it was that I don't want to talk it, maybe I'll talk about whatever. It doesn't talk out loud, but like the overhead was quite high, and then you sort of brought it down to for your pricing to on cost it because you're in that investment stage of business. So what I'm trying to say is if you're at an investment stage of business where you've got an operations manager or new something or new factory, your overhead can push up really north and you can balance it back through apprentices or efficient office work or more billable or subcontractors. There's ways to balance it. Like it's not a face value number. It can be chopped and changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, what's going through your head as I'm
Yeah, I definitely resonate with that. I'm all the business moves I've always made at every next level have never been relative to what the spreadsheets told me to do. You know, look, very rarely, like, I'll go, I've got to spend this money now, or I've got to take this guy off the tools now for where I want to be in 12 months or where I want to be in 6 months, right? So, like, it's not going to, the spreadsheet was not going to balance when I took Sam off the tools full time to mirror me for a month to learn how to be ops. But I can't on charge that to the client. That's not fair. Like, so it's just become a bit, there might be a window there where I can up it a little bit, but like if I can't sell that rate, it's like I just need to sacrifice that now and invest in him, knowing that we're setting the foundations for where we're gonna be. So me doing this will allow for me to employ another 3 to 4 staff, and that's when it's going to balance out. But it's not balancing at the moment, and that's okay. I think you just need to have cash behind you, obviously, to be able to make those choices and sacrifices as you go along the way. If you're already in a ATO debt, or you've been running your business poorly, you know, or you're just getting into your numbers now and you're like, I've got these debts to pay, it's not the time to be doing that. You know, like your time to be doing that is knuckling down, getting rid of, you probably don't have the time to be throwing as much money as I did as investing in staff members and upskilling and setting the foundations for the business growth. So I'd say the last 12 months, just for an example, like when we first started renting the other workshop, and Sam was sort of doing full-time ops now, and then even when we got Samantha, like the extra admin for 2 or 3 days a week just to give me a hand, not at all was it balancing, and I had to take myself out of the spreadsheet. So I was coming to work for free, you know, like I'm not at all getting paid. The business is not charging anyone for me to even be anywhere 40, 50 hours a week, you know, like, but I just sacrificed my time as a slave to the business essentially to train everyone to where it needed to be. And then we put a couple more guys on it, balanced out. We're sitting happy, like this is where we needed to be. But that foundation needed to be put in place before we did the hire, because if we hired those guys without the foundation, it'd be an absolute mess. You know, the business would be terrible. So
Yeah, my old boss used to say infrastructure, then grow. Set the
yeah,
infrastructure, set the foundation, something you can stand on, walk on, drive on. And I love hearing you talk about that. And I feel like you can only talk like that when you fully know the numbers. So I want to flash back to something you said with debt. If you're currently in debt, there's a really cool book called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's essentially about building personal wealth, and it's just a money book. The concept is incredibly simple. Essentially, it's this: spend less than you earn, which I think we can all be like. It's very easy to say and very hard to do, or it can be very hard to do. But there's a line in it that really stood out to me. It said, see debt as your enemy. So see debt as your enemy. So if you're currently in debt, you need to basically set the target, set the goals, and just be like, bang, bang, bang. If you're in a hectic payment plan or something, put on a spreadsheet, don't bury your head in the sand, and sort of like attack your way out of that like you would going into battle, pretty much, because you're in a battle, you're in a financial battle. So, and then coming into that as well, like I love, because I remember seeing it with a calculator for me, and it was a cost plus job. And I remember in the cost plus, I was like, well, I don't really need to be factored into the overhead cost, because I'm charging for my project management on this job. So I took myself out of the calculator, on costed a seemingly lower rate, but we had a high margin on materials. And I was also able to charge 1 to 2 days per week billable. So my actual overhead in the calculator, I went from a 0 to a 0.4 realistically for that job, but it didn't on cost my office time because we were charging for admin. But I think when you understand the numbers and you can balance it and you can chop and change it, there's no stopping you once you understand. And I think the cool thing about you is your feet were in the sand, but your head was in the future. Your feet were in the sand. It's like, I know my overhead's actually too high. I know I can't stay here because the months aren't going to close as what they should, could, or would. But I know if I set your overhead at X, you know it's costing you Y. You know there's a difference, but you know with that growth of the business, it's going to bring it back to X. And the overhead's always going to be like it should. If anyone's like listening or watching this, I don't know what the correct word is. Like it's a straight line, and you want to be as close to that straight line as possible. Your overhead's never going to be flat line, but it's gonna just needs to sort of go up and down within 10 to 15%. If it's getting too drastic, it needs to push back. But yeah, thoughts around that?
Yeah, definitely. I think I'm always sitting at the higher end because one, I look after our staff really well. One, we've got a fair image thing going on, so they're driving really new utes, good utes, like things like that. And then two, it's like it's a bit of a sacrifice and a balance sometimes. So like if I want to go traveling and I know I'm going traveling for a month or something, one of the other boys might have to jump off the tools a little bit, like, you know, one of my head guys to assist Sam in doing some more quotes or something. So that's not going to be currently built in the overhead at that time. But hey, I want a break. So like I'm going to go traveling for a month, you know. So and at the time you need to go, well, is money worth more, or is the profit worth more, or you're going to sacrifice a little bit of profit to have a little bit of joy? Like there's got to be a balance in there. So I think you can definitely get too caught into keeping your overheads down. You can get very caught in I just want to produce X amount this year and then the next year's X amount. It's very addictive to get addicted to the numbers as well. And I can definitely get sucked into it at times. But it is important to sit out. I'd spend money as well if you've got it on your staff. And, you know, I like to do that. So our overheads are always going to be I feel like we'll be sitting on the higher end of things because of that. But I try and keep them around, not too out of the extreme that this is crazy, you know what I mean? So it's just sort of like a fair balancing act, but that's also allowed us to get really good staff now. Like we've got a really good team. So
and you know that, so you can make decisions on that too. And I feel like the interesting thing about like an overhead calculator, essentially it means nothing. Like holistically, it means it's, don't get me wrong, I feel like I've gone full circle with numbers hardcore, going like it is like Solomon going like, everything is meaningless, right, for profit vibes. But it's kind of meaningless in a way. Like if your jobs are closing out well and your month's closing out well, then keep doing what you're doing. And could you double down on what you're doing instead of trying to reinvent the wheel? A great example is this: like if you're quoting, like what are the components that make up a quote? Let's just say it's a day switchboard. You're going to allow a rate times an hour amount with materials and a margin. And maybe there's a level 2 if you're in New South Wales. If you're in Queensland, do it yourself, because they don't care. If you're in Tas, you need Tas network or whatever. But like the components that make up your labor rate are hourly rate, super, and overhead. And your components that make up the rate you charge is the margin you put on top of that. So there's so many, like, you know, like, and you can't triple, quadruple dip. You can't have a high overhead, a high margin, put 12 hours on the job when it's going to take 8, and a high materials margin. Like if you quadruple dip across all those sort of income streams, you might say, you're going to be priced too high. So it's almost like you have to see the job holistically, which I love that what we do at Sparky Coach. Like I love that we see the jobs holistically, all inclusive. And sometimes, especially if you're pushing solar or aircon, sometimes you're making money from materials. Sometimes it's the amount of materials over less amount of hours. Sometimes it's the hours. Sometimes it's the great staff members. Sometimes it's a hybrid combination play. Sometimes it's just awesome. Sometimes the sun's shining. Sometimes it's raining. Sometimes it's sprinkling. So I just feel like it's the way we see it with the close every job and close a month. Like you can't hide from anything. And yeah, I love that. Thoughts?
Yeah, 100%. You can't hide. And in my business, you can't hide. I actually was doing some training with, say his first name because there's plenty of Jessies in the world. But Jesse, I was doing a bit of training with him yesterday. He's just starting to step up and do some quotes, and he does a lot of our project stuff. So he'll develop into sort of quoting and that, and that's the next step for my business. But I was showing him and the spreadsheet and that yesterday, going through the mini quote checker, and I was just showing him some of the jobs from the week, and he's like, "This is blew his brain." Like I could literally see it melt because I was like, "Dude, I've spent over like 100 grand in self investment and development. Like I would hate to know, it's probably 200 grand now. Who knows?" But I was like, I'm not expecting you to walk in here and just go, I spent an hour with Brad and boom, I'm a wizard. Like, I was like, this is going to come over years. And my ops, Sam's been doing it for a few years now and he still quizzes me, So, but he was just seeing me track everything. I'm still a bit old school. So even after the spreadsheet, I'm like tracking every staff member compared to their timesheet and what I build for them for the day as an individual. So I'm like, there's no hiding in my business. I'm like, if you're underperforming, you're going to be exploited daily, very quickly.
Yeah, exposed. I think not
Yeah,
exploited.
sorry,
Yeah.
exposed. Wrong
Yeah.
choice of words there, but yeah.
Yeah, I hear. It's so interesting. I love that. I used to be the same with Crow Electrical. I'll track every hour. I'd be like, oh, we only got 39, not 40. And I think it's in the detail that separates the business. It's interesting because when you talk on site, it's the little details that separate the good from excellent. It's the extra screw hanging the aircon unit. It's the extra cable tie. It's the extra effort pinning something. It's the extra effort walking around with good testing equipment and making sure everything works. It's the handover document. Like when you talk on site, like it's the little things that go from good to excellent. And I think in business, offsite, which is, let's face it, much more important than the on-site stuff, it's the little things that separate. And I think that if you can nail the 1%ers, you can do some good stuff. So what's your advice here? Like if what's your advice to you? I want to take it three ways. I want to go like, what's your advice to yourself in the sub mill club? This is interesting because I sit with people on a coaching front. I don't love like our coaching. It's if you're just by yourself, it can seem expensive, but if you've got a team of 3 or 4, it's like sweet. So I don't love. I haven't been advising people to come in if they haven't started yet or if they're just starting out. I'm like, I feel kind of bad, but also it's like you can't afford to do it, but you can't afford not to do it, which is super interesting. So it's like, what would you say to someone like that? Like because did you come on into coaching straight from the outset or did you have time or?
I think I was about 6 to 9 months in, and I was like, I need some coaching here because I think I had a TA and we were super busy for like 6 to 9 months, and Jan or Feb and that hit, and I was like, I had to let him go, and I was like, he was a mate of mine, and I was like, this, can I swear or not?
Yeah,
I
you can
was
say.
like, this fucking sucks. So I was like, I just let go like a mate of mine, and I was just like, this is never happening to me again. And I've never let anyone go from being quiet. I'll work till 9 o'clock at night to never do that again, nearly. You know what I mean? Like I've done some big days quoting to feel it's light on schedule just to get the boys work. Yeah, that rattled me, man. And I was just like, never again, because I just didn't know how to funnel work in and grow my business at that point to like, the business was just very caught in the ebbs and flows of the environment, like that is what was surrounding your business. And I was like, I need to know how to control this and pull levers and pull more work in when I need it. If it's getting quiet, I can't just rely on word of mouth. So that's what, yeah, that was probably a big indicator for me. And I had the risk tolerance to do it. The one thing I do notice with the sub 1 mil club, there's a lot in there that are quite nervous about things. Like if I'm like, oh, you need another staff member, it's easy, and I've become comfortable with it. But I understand it is nerve wracking. But I feel a few of them, I get the vibe that maybe they don't want to, which is fine. They might have a business goal of 2 to 3 people. They're on the tools half the time and off the tools half the time, and they get a 2 or 3 week vacation with the family once a year. Like their goals are probably different to mine. But the one thing I've noticed with that is if some of them have a little bit more like, oh, I'm going to go implement that and I'm going to go get it done, then they definitely have the capabilities of everyone. Has the capabilities to go north if they want to. They just got to be disciplined enough to see it through.
Yeah, okay. So discipline gets you through working hard and working smart gets you through 0 to 1.
Yeah.
What gets you through 1 to 2?
Yeah, you're just a discipline for sure.
And what would you do? What would you tweak like from your one? Would you get Sam earlier, or an ops earlier, or a factory earlier?
I did it. I would have got the factory earlier. I did everything super early because I was going away on long service leave. So I went backpacking for 6 months, man, and just sort of worked remotely, like 20 hours a week. And I was so over the business. I threw Sam the phone and was like, "You're getting paid like a cut here. Have it. This is what I do." And I took him around for a few weeks, and there's a handover period where he took it for a few weeks before I left, and he was like, "Man, I can't do it. This is nuts. How do you do all this?" Like, that made me realize, I was like, "Holy shit, I'm doing the work of like two people. I've just become this absolute animal." To be fair, that I was just like smashing it all and doing really well, but I was like, I can't expect this out of anyone. Like, this is crazy. So straight up, we hired a full-time admin straight off the bat. That I was like, yeah, don't need it. Doesn't balance overheads, but we just go full-time admin now, and we'll build into having that. And sure enough, like, we found more work because we had a full-time admin. So then we needed more staff, and it was just like it's roll-on effect.
It's so interesting. It's not as funny because it's like even in the overhead with some people, they quote jobs to what their overhead says, but they're volunteering labor and material, not like they're volunteering labor and admin time to the business. So it's like, of course, your overhead's going to be super light and you're going to be profitable because you're working 40, 50 hours a week on the tools and you're volunteering your nighttime and your partner's doing 16 hours as well. And all the late night stuff's low quality, but it's still time. So it's like you get to the end of the year and you make you 300 grand, and I'm not against making 300 grand. Like it's funny seeing the Sparky Coach numbers. A lot of our members recently have like highlighted to them what's possible when you dial the numbers right in. So anyway, that's a sideways comment. But like 150 grand is it's a 300 grand is just 150 times two. And most electrical business owners could walk somewhere tomorrow for 130 to 150 plus super plus a car. So it's like, and if you're doing 80 hours anywhere, that would equate to a good wage. So
Yeah, I always said to mates when I was in that stage too, I was like, you get the same money if you want to go do FIFO, and you probably get more time.
mm.
Really.
But
Like,
the thing that's underestimated is once you put that, what they call it, sweat equity into the business, right? Like
yeah,
once you put that sweat in and you're in the fruit of it, um, it's worth it.
yeah. You got to
Yeah.
make the sacrifice early to root. It's like planting a seed, man. You can't plant a seed and expect to go in the backyard and have a tree tomorrow. Like, it doesn't work.
And my question to you, would you do it again?
Yeah, every day of the week, I'd give it all again to do it again. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like it's interesting, isn't it? Business is there's such a personal development skill as well. Like,
yeah.
you've got to get better, you've got to get more
Man,
risk
I
tolerant.
wouldn't be the person I am today without it. You know what I mean? Like, I've changed so much as an individual to change myself to be able to be capable of this. But like at the same time, I've spiritually and personally developed to a point where I'm like, I'm glad I'm not the person I was anymore. So without the business, I wouldn't have done that. So,
Yeah, yeah. And one of the most underrated things is, I think, like what no one talks about is you have to put the hours in anyway. If you were to go and work in any other job, you're probably doing 8 to 10 hour days.
yeah,
So that's the thing that no one talks about. It's like, oh, I put this time in a business. I'm like, you would have put that time somewhere,
yeah,
So let's not forget about that. So your
yeah.
final wrap, if you had like one shot, one opportunity to sort of like, it could be a thought, could be a philosophy, could be an inspirational comment. What would you say to the people?
Um, this is probably highlighting what we spoke about. Let the cash, something that really stuck with me, because you get caught in holding money when you first start doing well in business, but let the cash flow. Like, as long as you got money coming in, don't be greedy, don't hold it, don't try and screw your staff down. Like, let the cash flow. Like, if you're doing well, your staff should be doing well. Everyone, look after your clients. Just be good, be kind to everyone, as you say. Always be kind. It'll flow in. You'll do really well, and pay good money out to people too. Look after people, because that, I think, is the main thing that you can't hold money all the time. You know what I mean? Like, it's share it around. You do good things for people, more will come your way.
Yeah, I love that. I was sitting with someone the other day, and they're tossing up giving someone a 5 grand pay rise.
Yeah.
Sorry, a $5 an hour pay rise. So like, 10 grand a year. And I was like, what do you want to make 500 grand this year or 490? And they're like, oh yeah. It's like when you put it in
Yeah.
holistic context, it's like, you're not going to you're not going to regret doing the right thing by your staff, and your clients. So you think if you just do the right thing and you're making money, that's it, right?
Yeah.
But you got to go.
I'm gonna go.
Thanks for hanging out, and be blessed. I'll see you soon.
Cheers, Craig. See you, man.
That's a wrap on another podcast. Whatever you're doing, don't be too busy to stop and check if you're making money. And above all else, you know the rules. Be kind. See you soon.